Okay, so evaluation question 4 is to discuss how I use media technologies in the construction, research, planning, and evaluation stages. So, in this video, I'm going to discuss them in a logical order and say how they aided my final product, as well as my progress in the coursework too. So, before we begin with the really useful media technologies, I just want to give a brief shout out to a few others. So, Google, for example, our search engine, that was really good at helping us to filter down through key terms and come up with excellent internet searches. Rather than having to find each page individually, Google just did it for us. So, it saved us a lot of time. Another brief mention was to social networks. So, social networks were good at all stages because in the research and planning stage, it was really good at allowing us to build up a collective identity about Passion Pit, who were the band that we chose, by going on their Twitter and Facebook and Instagram page. So we could kind of see what the band was like and build up our opinion on them. So that was good. But also in the evaluation and feedback stage, they were good as well because we could post our video on here and see what other people had to say. So we could get real comments and feedback on our final product. So yeah, these I just briefly wanted to mention because I think they're important. But now I'm going to speak about the really important ones. So yeah, let's begin. The first media technology that springs to mind when thinking about the coursework is Blogger. Now, Blogger is a blogging website, hence the name Blogger. And while we did use it at AS level, I really feel like this year I've got to grips with how to be a blogger. AS, it was more just typing things up and getting the job done. But at A level, it's really given me the opportunity to go crazy and just generally make my blog much more aesthetically pleasing than last year. So, for example, a benefit of having a blog is that you can embed Web 2.0 tools such as eMaze, which is a presentation software. And through this, I was able to really present my ideas in a much more visual way. And so people that are scrolling through the blog can interactively click on different links and see various things like videos and, as I said, other Web 2.0 tools. And just generally, blogging is a much better format than typing things up on a Word document, which tends to be boring and repetitive. And overall, I really feel like a blog has helped make my product much better because it's also acted as a diary, so I can see the progress I've made. And a final benefit is I could also refer back to older posts, such as one time where I wanted to refer to Goodwin's theory when I was nearly finished the product. I could just quickly go back to the post about Goodwin's theory and just refresh my memory about what research I did. So blogging is definitely a thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed it, and generally, it's just made my life a lot easier than typing things up. Okay, so returning back to the Web 2.0 tools, these were heavily featured in all stages of our coursework. So they were used in the construction, research, planning, and evaluation stages too. But if I had to criticize my use of them, I would say that I mainly used them in the research and planning rather than the construction and evaluation stages because the whole point of research and planning was to find out about ideas and get these across to an audience, whereas the construction was mainly filming the music video and evaluation was talking about our progress. So, on the whole, Web 2.0 tools have featured in the whole of my blog. One of the main benefits of Web 2.0 tools is rather than the blog being just text based, it adds a new level of interactivity to the blog. So this is better for the audience and person reading the blog, as well as for us ourselves as well, because it's a nice change from just text. Web 2.0 tools are much easier to give information to an audience. So, for example, one of our first treatment ideas, I think it was put into an eMaze presentation, which is a presentation software. And so we showed this to an audience, and they were much better at understanding what we intended because we had the use of videos and images and animations and text rather than just something that was text based. So eMaze is a really good example of a Web 2.0 tool that helped get across the information that we wanted. Okay, so I'm going to briefly talk about a few of the other Web 2.0 tools I used in the research and planning stage. So one of them was called MindMap. Now, this is essentially a mind mapping software online, and you can embed this link into your blog. So anyone scrolling through your blog can see the mind map that you've made without needing to go on a new page. So the benefit of mind map is that other group members that were in my media group could quickly look over mine to see what ideas that I had, and also I could look at theirs to see what ideas they had. And it's just a good way to have it online, because that way if you make any mistakes you can easily change it, and also it's free and easy to add new labels if we had any extra ideas come up later. So I would say that the only downfall of this is that once we'd made it, we tended not to refer back to them. And I think we could have looked at them more because they could have proven to be quite useful. But as I said, we didn't use them that much. So I don't really know the full potential we could have used them to. But generally, they were quite helpful at brainstorming ideas. Another Web 2.0 tool that we used was called Dippity, and our teacher showed us this one, and it was essentially a timeline making software. So you could come up with a timeline and you could set dates or deadlines, and then if you followed this, you should have a final product completed by the last deadline. So that's all well and good, but we ultimately didn't use this to its full potential. And the problem we had was that we didn't meet our initial deadline. And the reason behind this was because when we made our Dippity, we didn't take into account that there could be problems. So, for example, when our lead singer couldn't make certain dates, that meant that we fell behind schedule, and so the whole rest of our Dippity timeline was pointless because we were already behind schedule anyway. But when we did look at our Dippity timeline, it just showed us how organized we were. For example, most of the tasks that were on there we had met by the deadlines, and because of the Dippity timeline, we did manage to meet these deadlines. But as I said, towards the end of the project, we began to slack a little bit and not refer to it that much, and that's when the problem started coming up. And overall, it was useful to make because it improved our organization and um, target setting skills. But as I said before, we could have used it a little bit more. But yeah, that's the Web 2.0 tools in a nutshell. So, generally, really useful throughout all the stages: research and planning, construction, and evaluation stages. And yeah, I quite enjoyed using them. It's just a nice change from text. So, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some media technologies that were fundamental to the production and construction stage of the project. Immediately, the first piece of media technology that springs to mind is the camera. So at AS, we did use a camera, but this was for a different set of skills because at AS, we just used it to take photos, like still images. I think we used a Fujifilm digital camera or just simply our iPhones, but at A level, we had to use a different skill set of filming moving images, and now that's quite difficult, especially since none of us has had practice of it. Um, but over the summer, so from the transition from AS to A level, I decided to save up enough money to buy a Canon 600D camera with a 50mm 1.8 aperture lens, and this was possibly the best buy I ever made because I've now become a really, really passionate filmmaker, and with this camera I could film such a vast range of footage that was much better than using the cameras in school. So as you can see, if you start with the Swede, the picture quality is really sharp because it's capable of filming in 1080p HD, but my camera work wasn't so good, so lots of it was shaky and um, just a little bit out of focus. But as the media course progressed, I also developed my camera work skills. So if you look at the video of the twins, which was one of our initial ideas, didn't get chosen, but it's worth having a look. You can see that I've got a lot better at playing about with the depth of field, and also I'm getting much better at focusing on particular objects. And part of the way I did this was using YouTube, another good media technology, and typing in how to do different skills. So rack focusing is something I really, really enjoy doing, and I really like it when they use it in films. So I typed in a tutorial on how to do it, and I copied this technique. So in our final video, you can see that I've used it for A, artistic purposes, and B, also to act as pivotal moments in the narrative. So, for example, here you can see that I focus in the foreground on her face, but then as the camera turns around, it focuses onto the background where the characters are kissing. So, this not only allows you to focus on their emotions, but it's also a reveal for the audience, as well as looking just generally artistic. So, that's a really, really good skill to have. Also, with this camera, I use things like a steady cam and a tripod to keep it stood still so it didn't shake. And yeah, this made these pieces of hardware made our video as nice as it could be. Um, yeah, so the picture quality is sharp. It looks aesthetically pleasing on this camera, and although it was quite an expensive purchase. For me, I'm going to make use out of it, and I really feel like I've developed my skills through doing this media project, and it definitely reflects in the final project, as you can see. I mean, there's a few shots I'm not happy with, but it would have been too time costly to go back and change them. But not everything's going to be perfect, so I think for an A-level project, I think as a group we work really well, and we've made a really professional looking music video. As well as recording footage, my DSLR camera could take photos, really, really good quality photos, which I used for my ancillary text, such as this one of the boy in the bathtub from above. And also, we used the camera just for a small side note. We just used it for recording audience feedback, which was fundamental in enabling us to change our product. To see what changes we made through audience feedback, just look at the other evaluation question. But yeah, we used cameras to record feedback.